Welcome back, everyone, to Talk to Me Tuesday. This week we are continuing our conversation about how to move forward. And again, I have Janine with me because this has been going really well. I love having the back and forth with someone. After all, it is Talk to Me Tuesday. So our topic in continuing with how to move forward is talking about the pandemic, especially this week because it's the week of Thanksgiving, and a lot of us are going to be faced with making quite literally life and death decisions. Would you agree with that, Janine?
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, so I think, we've been having some conversations and we wanted to share them with you about, how some of these experiences and decision making has left us feeling and how we can move forward. Did you want to kick us off, Janine?
Sure. But I think it's a really important topic because the pandemic has literally has affected every single person in this world's life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, this is something on a global scale. And I say that for two reasons. Like, one is I know this is kind of hokey, but we need to know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is that, there's so much variation in response to the pandemic that I always think it's really important to recognize that a whole entire world is experiencing a pandemic, and our whole entire world in all our countries never agree on anything, but they agree that this pandemic is real, and that this is affecting everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of these conversations, and it's funny, Alicia, I'm even like tiptoeing around because there's been so much emotion about the pandemic that I think a lot of us, especially those of us, and I'm going to say for myself, those of us who have been extremely cautious and careful have learned really in the last few months to tiptoe around being almost nervous about somebody else's reaction to being that cautious or to being somebody who takes the restrictions seriously, and to also having family members and people who are close high risk. And it brings up a lot of different emotions when we get faced with somebody who isn't taking it as seriously. And I find myself just even having this conversation with you, we're on the air going, I'm stepping into territory and I'm putting my shield and armor on because I'm not sure what might come back. Yeah. And I need a moment just to recognize that because in a sense that just makes me sad because we're in a worldwide pandemic, and I'm hoping through this conversation that we all end up in a place of compassion.
Right. Well, I keep telling myself and reminding myself that, and this is something that I carry in all aspects of my life, but that I would rather make huge mistakes in my decision making, erring on the side of an abundance of love for others than to disregard that and to not have love for others. And, I think that's the place that I'm coming from, whether or not it's for me, whether or not I feel that this could, alter my life, which it could, but it could alter a complete stranger's life. And I don't want to be a part of that. Like I want people to know that everything I did was out of love for all people.
Absolutely. I mean, and it alters whether things stay open or they close. It alters whether, every decision that we all make collectively alters how much we actually need to have like lockdowns and restrictions versus how much we're just respecting one another.
Right.
And Lisa, one of the things that my family, we talk about is that we don't want to do anything that we would ever regret.
Yeah.
And I won't regret staying inside, but I will regret whether I put myself, my family, or like you said, a complete stranger's life at risk.
Yeah.
And so we're on that. But I'm going to assume that our listeners are probably on our same page because they're our listeners. And I think one of the things we want to talk about, or I would want to talk about, is exactly what I started out with. Is right. All of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, if I say this, am I going to get in trouble?
Yeah.
Or get yelled at? Or what's the backlash for saying I like masks? And how right now in Thanksgiving, I think a lot of us are going to be faced with not only decisions, but possibly having some backlash.
Yeah.
From making a decision that maybe somebody else doesn't like. And I think you and I both have had experiences in where this pandemic, right, it triggers something bigger than masks and just taking safety precautions.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very fortunate that my family and my close friends are on the same page with me, but I was really taken back recently by an encounter that I had with somebody. Well, actually, it was a group of people, but there was one that kind of seemed to be like the ringleader or the spokesperson of the group, and in a public space that was clearly marked for masks, and they were, I mean, I'll call it what it is. They were abusive towards me, and I asked them to please put on a mask for those around them, and their refusal, and I know I've seen it online and people, talk about it, or I see, the news with people protesting the wearing of masks and stuff, but when you actually encounter it and you have someone look you in the eye and basically tell you that your life is insignificant to them, or anyone else's life is insignificant to them, it hits you in a different way, like being looked in the eye and having someone say that. And it was a whole lot, like you had said earlier, the emotions, it was a whole lot of emotions. There was a feeling of helplessness, like, well, what do I do? And fear, like, okay, I don't know, this person clearly doesn't believe in masks, so what am I being exposed to right now? And what am I going to potentially expose others to? And then rage that someone could outwardly deny another human being's existence like that.
Exactly. And it really, and like you said, it really is abuse, right? Like at the end of the day, the behavior is triggering, as we talked about last week too. It's that abuse that's running through, and it takes us back, and when we're confronted with it, it brings up all this stuff. And again, right, you walk into it thinking like, oh, I'm just going to say, hey, can we put on a mask, and everyone's going to be fine with that. Right? Like, there's no,
right.
It's just a piece of cloth, right? Like, who cares? Like, it's just a piece of cloth. We're going to wear it for 5 minutes while we're near each other, and then, go on our merry way. And then this other piece comes, and basically, right, you're held hostage.
Right.
I know an elderly couple who had people come into their house to do some work. They needed something fixed, and the husband of the couple went, not thinking twice, went to go shake the guy's hand who came in, and he immediately was like, oh my gosh, like, duh, we can't shake hands right now. And he washed his hands, and again, politely, the elderly couple just said to the person who came into work and said, hey, why don't you wash your hands? We have some hand sanitizer. And the guy responded, oh, I don't believe in that. I think a little bit of germs are okay.
Oh my God.
Now but really think about it. So this elderly couple ended up literally being held hostage in their room. They retreated to their room one of them has cancer, another one is extremely high risk, and they knew that the person in their house who they hired isn't taking precautions at all. And like you said, it welled up so many emotions. And one of the things that the wife had said was, that rage, how dare you walk into my house and with the intent, whether it being real or not, where you could kill me.
Right.
And that's such a real aspect. For me, I've had a little bit, I've had great friends and things, but in the beginning, right after the lockdown, like I said, we've been always taking it very cautiously, but this actual incident made us more cautious. Was some close people to us. We were going to have our son, kind of get back into an activity. Let's just put our masks on, stay 6 feet apart. Let's get the kids, we've just been all in lockdown for X amount of months. Let's get some fresh air. And unfortunately, that suggestion, which is mandated even, came back with anger and defiance of that won't happen. It has to either go back to normal or nothing. And honestly, it's even now, like, it's one of those pieces where you feel sad. You go, wow, like some of the people I'm surrounded with don't respect us.
Right.
Or don't have.
That's not friendship, right? That's not care.
It's not friendship, right? It's not friendship. And how do you explain that to your children too, who all they wanted to do was play with their friends? There's a heartbreak to it, and I feel like it's important for us to talk about this because I know that there are a lot of people who are experiencing these experiences. And just as I was kind of cautious about even bringing it up in the beginning, even though we have planned on talking about this, I think there's a lot of us who are experiencing this and being very quiet about it because, right, we're going into kind of protective mode.
Right.
And then in a sense there's a loneliness to that because we're not talking about it.
Right. Well, and I'm glad we're doing this because my instinct, after having that recent encounter was, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to ever have that confrontation with somebody again. Like,
right.
I don't want to do that. And I'm just going to keep to myself and stay quiet. But I think it is something that more of us need to be normalizing, that no, it's not okay to not show care for others.
Right, and also normalize the fact that it's, to just these precautions, right? Putting a mask on, staying 6 feet away, not traveling for Thanksgiving, like all these things, just that it becomes normal. And then we kind of can feel that connection and a different kind of almost wave of this pandemic piece, where we do come together and we say, hey, we can actually keep each other safe. And while we keep each other safe, actually we keep things open. And when when we learn to respect each other, even in those times where we do need to, where we almost, where we are farther away or apart, we get creative and we create what I call kind of a higher connection. And so it kind of gives us that strength to move through this versus the loneliness and the mental illness that can come in to play.
Yeah. It opens up space to become creative about finding new ways to do it. If everyone is insisting on doing it the old way,
right,
and not able to move past that, and putting people at risk, then we're never going to get to that next level and
right,
be able to think outside that.
And, one of the things that you and I, constantly discuss is, right, there is the reality of the mental illness aspect of the pandemic, and we're very aware of that. And so creating true connection is so important. And I do find it hard to get to that point when we're still haven't decided yet whether collectively we're always going to look out for one another.
Right.
And I feel like that is a little bit of a piece that kind of hinders, it's almost like everyone's on all these different playing fields. And it keeps that disjointed versus, like you said, kind of creatively coming up with different ideas. Which this is totally not what we planned, Alicia, but can I just plug our From the Ground Up kids for one moment?
Of course.
So if you guys don't know who From the Ground Up is, our teen group of Nourish My Soul. And they are completely online this year for this exact reason. Everyone comes from different towns. We're going to make sure that we can stay consistent. You're going to, Alicia does such a great job with these. I don't want to call them kids because they're teens and they don't want to be called kids, but right, recently they just literally sat there and created all these thoughts and ideas to stay connected through the pandemic for the winter time. And just me reading what the ideas are, I won't tell you all because it's their ideas to share.
And they're fantastic. Drum roll for when they make the announcement.
They're so fantastic. But just reading that they're thinking of me, my family, truly, that there's a group of kids who are out there who are thinking of us, who are going to be, very cautious, that there's an avenue for connection was just so exciting that I can't wait until they get to share it and be a part of that. And I feel that we kind of sometimes forget how creative and how fun it can be when we have restrictions and we have to do it differently.
Right.
And so we wanted to leave you guys, all of our lovely family here, some ideas. If you are like us and you're going to face making some difficult decisions about how you're going to go through the holiday season, whether it be Thanksgiving or whether it be all of December into January, know that we are with you. And if you are having some experiences like me and Alicia have talked about, we're a safe place to talk about it because it does bring up some very deep emotions. Two, I think we sometimes just need those reminders that when we're in times like these, that we always do have a choice to look for the fun. Right. I say it to my kids all the time, right, go clean your room. Well, how can you make it fun? You have that, I always empower them. I'm empowering you to make cleaning fun. And I do it with them, and I'm encouraging because it's a great skill. And I have to say that this skill is brought to you by going through some really, really tough times. But it's a skill that I actually I can't be more thankful. So here's our Thanksgiving. I can't be more thankful for those really tough times because I have developed that skill come the pandemic of how to really look for, it's not just look for the good, but how can I think of what today can I come up with? What fun game in my head can I do? What funny thing can I bring in that makes today, that I choose today to make it fun?
I love that.
And I know for myself, especially when I get like in my own little swirl of a head, I sometimes just need somebody to remind me of that.
Yeah.
Like when the pandemic first hit, Alicia. So I have, for those who don't know, I have 4 boys. So we have, to say the least, an energetic household. So when the pandemic hit and the lockdown hit, you told us to stay inside. I repeat, 4 energetic boys. Right. And, all of that was going on. So one of the games we actually started playing was, how many miles can we hike? And we needed to get them out. We needed to get them exercise. We needed to get them in a place, right, where not many people are. And it became such a fun game that we want to hike 100 miles before the end of this thing, which we're really close to. So
I was going to say, you haven't reached that yet?
We're really, really close. So I really think that, we might end up being 200 miles by the end of the pandemic.
And how fun then the boys can map out what 200 miles looks like, on a map. And
well, it became a game. It became something that we all were like, yes, we did this. And even when you're going through some tougher hikes, right, there was that goal, and it was fun. It was it had accomplishment, and it's so simple, but it has made this time something different, because in our old life there was not time to do all that hiking.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have time to all be together to do something like that as often as we have been doing it. So, there's been this, and every single time we're out on the trail, the first thing, man, could you ever imagine living life without this? And we did for a really long time.
Yeah. I love that.
So,
even just thinking of that as an analogy for all of us going through this right now, and, climbing that mountain, that visual, and challenging ourselves at how many miles we can go to keep each other safe, kind of thing. That's going to be my visual.
Well, it is a good visual, and I will tell you, every hike starts off like this. I don't want to do it. I really am this. My legs are sore. And then you get to a certain point and it's like, this isn't so bad. I don't really think it. And then you get to the peak, and then this comes. Whoa. Right? And every single hike, it's it really is such a great metaphor for climbing that mountain, for doing the work. And just doing what you need to do, and really having that payoff of compassion and love and connection in a different way.
I love that. And I want to hear from everybody else what they're doing, how they're handling this holiday with, if they've had any confrontations that or letdowns from family and friends that they thought were safe. I know that's happening a lot. And, let's talk it through and see how we can continue to move forward and hold each other in that loving space and make sure that we're all getting through this healthy and safe.
And that Nourish My Soul, we are a safe place.
Yes. All right. So that's the end. That concludes our Talk to Me Tuesday. And tomorrow, we'll have more for you, but I know this is a holiday week, so not a lot of people will probably be tuning in, but maybe you can catch up over the weekend So thanks again, Janine.
Thank you.